Hey, this is Zach from Biker's Edge, and we are going to talk today about how you can make fat biking more enjoyable. So there's a few things to know when you start fat biking. You are going to go out, and within the first, let's say 5 rides, 2 to 3 of them are going to be the worst rides you have ever had. It's the truth. You need to learn a few things. You need to learn how to ride, where to ride, when to ride, what to wear. And when you figure those things out, it goes from something that can be really frustrating and really maybe not even fun to something that's just super enjoyable, allows you to keep pedaling during the winter, keep your fitness, keep your sanity because you're able to get outdoors. All right, let's start with how to ride. Everything's going to be different. Everything's going to be foreign. You're still biking, you're still pedaling, it still can be a lot of fun. Really the biggest thing on this one is you're just going to have to take your time and you're going to have to learn. Be patient. Just know that you're going to be going slower. This is not flying down hills, shredding corners, jumping off stuff. This is more kind of a cross-country type riding style to where you enjoy the climbs, you enjoy the descents. It can be a lot of work, especially depending on conditions, which we'll talk about in a minute. But really just be patient. And if you're patient, you're going to end up loving it in the end. All right, let's talk about when to ride. Temperature is so key when you're fat biking. I really, if I'm honest, avoid riding if it's going to be over freezing. When you get over freezing, the snow turns slushy, you're sliding out everywhere, you don't have the same traction. Best temperatures, probably the easiest temperatures to ride in, are the 20s because it's not so cold that you're really getting too cold. The snow temperatures, the snow conditions can be really good to where you have some good traction. It can be really a lot of fun. Teens, in my opinion, at least in northern Utah, probably have the best snow. It really hardens up, you can really get after it a lot more, and it can be a lot of fun. Single digits with the right clothing can be great as well, but you do need to make sure you have the right clothing. Like timing and stuff like that with a storm, which can be really key. If your snow is already packed in, a storm with 1 or 2 inches right after that can be just a lot of fun. You're just packing that snow down. The conditions are great. It's kind of magical in a way. But trying to ride right after a big storm, 4, 5, 6 plus inches, it's just not going to happen. You are not busting through powder and busting through deep snow on a fat bike. Really, the conditions are best when everything's packed down. As far as the where to ride, really steep stuff's probably not going to work out. No matter what the conditions, there's a good likelihood that you're going to be spinning out. So look for trails that are a little more even. Trails with berms are actually a lot of fun because you can get into the corners a lot better. All right, let's talk about what to wear. Now, one of the hardest things can be keeping yourself warm, but actually one of the even harder things is not being overly warm. One of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of people doing is overdressing. 2 of the pieces that I'm almost always using are going to be like a soft shell type pant. This one from Pearl Izumi that I'm wearing just works awesome. Soft shell top of some sort. I've got a Gore, which again I've had for this one for years and I've really enjoyed. There's a lot of similar pieces to this. Layering is really key though. I'm always going to wear a base layer of some sort. That base layer helps to wick moisture away, and believe me, you will be sweating and you will be sweating hard. If I'm riding in temperatures from about freezing down to about 20, I'm usually pretty good with a soft shell of some sort and a base layer underneath, and then I just have tights with my biking chamois underneath that. Keeps me plenty warm. Now if I'm going to get into the teens, I'm going to put another layer on underneath my soft shell. That's going to allow me to not freeze. Single digits starts getting a little harder. You really, again, layer. A lot of times I'll add another layer of tights at that point. The hardest thing is keeping your hands and feet warm. It's really just by far the hardest thing. I'll say this, and this is just from a lot of experience, there's no way to keep your hands warm with regular gloves, especially on those lower temperatures. Pogies, some sort of pogies. I've got bar mitts on mine, which are one of the cheaper ones, which are awesome. I've had these for several years and they're great. With these bar mitts, I'll ride down to about 20 degrees with my regular weight summer, just Giro D&D gloves with the bar mitts, and I am plenty warm. If I get under 20, I've got a set of like mid-weight Giro gloves that I'll wear. As far as your feet, depends on two things, if you're gonna run clipless or if you're gonna run flats. I run clipless, I'm just more comfortable with it. 45 North makes some excellent shoes. I've got an older pair of Wolfhammers, but man, they've got a line with 3 different models, and you can kind of look at the temperature and the type of riding that you're wanting to do. If you're riding flats, which I mean I'd say the majority of people do on a fat bike, just find a good pair of winter shoes that keep you nice and warm. I will also, when it gets really cold, I've got these little toe warmers that are kind of designed for skiing, but you slip them on top of your sock, you put them over your toes, and it'll give me an extra 10 or 15 degrees easy. All right, now I want to go over bikes. There are really a lot of different types of fat bikes out there, a lot of different tire sizes. I think it can get a little bit confusing. I also don't think you need to spend a ton of money on a fat bike to go out and have a lot of fun. But there are a few things that are very important and very key that I think you ought to be looking for. Here in Utah though, I mean, we've really got to stress that go big. I would say a 26 inch by 4.8, a 27 inch by at least a solid 4.5 to 4.6 is absolutely key. I don't care if you go 27 or 26, it really doesn't matter. In the end, it's all about that contact patch and how much tire you get on the ground. You want more. Let's talk about tire pressures for a little bit. You're gonna have to experiment with it. But a good thing to kind of start off with, and we'll tell a lot of people, try 5 PSI up front, 6 PSI in the rear. Yes, those are single digit PSIs. Half a PSI will actually really affect the way it rides. I end up usually around about 4.5 up front, about 5.5 to 6 in the rear. Still sticking on the tire subject, yes, the tires can be heavy. But if you can get a setup with tubeless, really you can take a lot of weight off. It's usually 1 pound to 1.5 pounds at the minimum. It allows you to run lower tire pressure without worrying about pinch flatting. It's really a nice thing to do. So again, on tires, we get a lot of questions about studs. There's a lot of areas of the country where studs are almost needed. It gets so icy. Here in Utah, it'll get a little icy, but it doesn't usually just get crazy. But studs are nice. If you're buying new tires, I'd probably suggest looking at a tire that is at least studdable. We get a lot of questions about drivetrains as well. I think that, you know, drivetrains obviously are important. You don't have to be really high end on this. Really all that matters is your low gear. You need to have a gear that's low enough that when you're pushing through some snow, you know, you're pushing a little bit heavier bike, that you have a gear that's low enough that allows you to keep maintaining that momentum. Every time you stop on a fat bike, you have to get started again. Momentum is your friend, and that's where having a gear that's low enough that allows you to keep on spinning up that hill is really crucial. All right, so let's talk about dropper posts for a second. Dropper posts on fat bikes can be really, really nice, but to be honest, I think the biggest factor on them is not what you would normally think. Sure, going down hills, it can help you and kind of help you have control, but when you have to hop off your bike, which is going to happen more often than on a regular bike by far, you got to get back on it. When you step into 8 or 12 inches of snow off the side of the trail and you're trying to get started again, it is really, really nice to have your dropper post down and out of the way. All right, let's talk for a minute about suspension, forks, and different options going on up front. I'm under the opinion that if you are using your fat bike for snow, and that's 99% of what you're using it for, you probably don't really need a suspension fork up front. Now, if you are the type of person who is going to be riding their bike all year, it's one of their favorite one of your favorite things to do, it's your main bike, then yeah, you know, I think a Bluto or a Mastodon, the Lauf, can be a really nice addition to your bike to kind of help smooth it out in the summer. But in the winter, it's really not that needed. All right, so I really hope that this was a good starter and kind of helpful on helping you learn how to fat bike, where to fat bike, when, you know, and it just makes a big difference on how much fun you're gonna have. If you have questions, we are more than happy to help out in any way we can. Come on into the shop. You can email us at info@bebikes.com. We're more than happy to answer questions that way too. We do have a couple demos. If you want to try a fat bike out before you really buy, come on in. We're happy to set you up on those. We'll steer you to a good place to go ride and kind of help you make sure you have a good experience there. But yeah, get out there, have fun, keep pedaling. This is the really just such a fun way to keep on getting out and being active and enjoying cycling in the winter.